I was gone for 4 years in the army. Came back to find my parents gave my cabin to my drug addict brother. Hi, I'm Arlo, 25, and 4 years ago I left home to serve my country. I came back to find my parents had handed my off-grid cabin, the one I built with my own blood and calluses, to my addict brother like it was a spare futon. I didn't get a hug. I didn't get a welcome sign. I got a trespassing ticket on land I legally owned. Let me rewind. Before I joined the army, I spent 2 years building a cabin on 10 acres of timberland I bought with cash from roofing and septic jobs. I was 19. No loans, no handouts. I felled the red cedar myself, notched every log, poured the footings, and ran solar with a backup generator. It was my sanctuary. My future. When I signed my enlistment contract as a combat engineer, I handed the keys to my father, Doug. He clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, son. We'll keep it just like you left it." I believed him. Meanwhile, my older brother Jesse, who's been finding himself since he dropped out of college in 16, had found meth and a rotating carousel of rehab girlfriends. My parents had gone broke saving him. Pawned their jewelry, sold their second car, took out a second mortgage. They called it love. I called it willful blindness. But I never thought they'd drag my cabin into his chaos. Fast forward 4 years. I got discharged from Fort Carson with a stack of savings and a sunburned duffel. I drove my new used F-150 back to the mountains of Ash Creek, Idaho, feeling like I had a place to breathe again. When I reached the turnoff to my land, the gate I welded myself was hanging open. Chain cut. I crept up the gravel drive. The road I used to grade by hand was carved into deep ruts. I crested the hill and saw it. My cabin, my hand-built dream, looked like it had been swallowed by a hoarder's garage and spit out. Blue tarps flapped off a half-missing roof. My cedar porch was buried under scrap metal, black trash bags, and what looked like a gutted snowmobile. A gaunt pit bull chained to the railing barked like it was trained to kill. The door I built from reclaimed barnwood was splintered, busted in. The air smelled like ammonia, motor oil, cat piss, and something scorched and chemical. And then Jesse stepped out. Same guy, same crooked grin, wearing my old hoodie from high school, scabs blooming down his neck. "Arlo?" He squinted like I was a ghost. "Yo, you're early," Mom said. "March?" I didn't answer. I was staring at burn marks on my floors. Floors I sanded and sealed with my own hands. My grandpa's shotgun was gone. The kitchen cabinets? Ripped off the wall. Jesse scratched his stomach. "Chill, bro. I'm just watching the place for you. Security. You know." I told him to pack. 1 hour. Gone. He laughed in my face. "Nah. I live here now. I get mail. It's legally mine." And like clockwork, Mom and Dad rolled up in their Subaru, followed by a sheriff's deputy. What came next? I'll save that for part 2. But just know, if you think this is the part where family talks it out and hugs it out, you've never met mine. The deputy's name was Harold. Local guy. Used to referee JV football games when I was in high school. He stepped out of his cruiser with the casual dread of someone about to mediate a Thanksgiving dinner fistfight. "Morning, Arlo," he said like I was returning a damn library book, not coming home from 4 years of clearing IEDs in Kandahar. My mom, Karen, beelined past him and threw herself onto Jesse like he just survived a shipwreck. "Oh, my baby," she sobbed, checking his arms like I was the one who beat him. "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" "I just got here," I said flatly. "I didn't touch him." Jesse lit a cigarette and leaned on my doorframe like it belonged to him. "He came in screaming," he said, puffing smoke. "Threatening me with a crowbar. Said he was gonna bury me under the chicken coop." There was no chicken coop. "Jesus Christ," I muttered. "I told you to get out." "That's it." Dad stayed back, hands in his Carhartt jacket pockets, not looking at me. That told me everything. He knew what was going on. He'd known for a while. Hell, he probably helped Jesse drag that broken washing machine onto the porch. Deputy Harold raised his palms. "All right, let's cool it. Arlo, I understand you're upset. But Jesse says he's been living here over 30 days, and if he's receiving mail, that makes him a tenant under Idaho's civil code." "A tenant?" I snapped. "He's cooking meth in my kitchen, Harold. That's not a tenant. That's a walking felony." Harold glanced at the house, then back at me. "You got proof of that?" I pointed at the burned flooring, the pipes, the missing cabinets. This isn't water damage. This is a cookhouse. Mom stepped in, her voice syrupy with condescension. Honey, Jesse's in recovery. You don't know what it's like to struggle. You've always had everything come easy, scholarships, the army, this land. I stared at her like she'd grown a third eye. You think basic training was easy? You think getting shot at was a vacation? She ignored that. We didn't want to bother you overseas. Jesse needed a quiet place to stay, away from temptation. You weren't using it. It's not a pair of skis, I said, trying to keep my voice from breaking. It's not something you loan out. It's my home. Dad finally spoke. We figured you'd understand. He's your brother. No. He's your mistake, I said. And now he's my problem because you couldn't say no. The conversation spiraled from there. I kept waiting for someone, anyone, to acknowledge the basic truth that this was my land. But all I got were vague platitudes about forgiveness, family, and sacrifice. Finally, Harold sighed. Look, if you want him out, you'll need to file a formal eviction. County backlog is bad. 60 to 90 days, minimum. You want me to live in a Motel 6 while my meth-head brother squats in my house? That's the law, Harold said. My mother smiled just slightly. And that's when I knew. They never intended to give it back. Not ever. I didn't drive to a Motel 6. I drove to a bar. The kind where the floor sticks and the only people in camo are hunters, not soldiers. I sat in the corner nursing a warm IPA, watching the condensation trail down the glass while Jesse made himself comfortable in the wreckage of my life. The rage sat inside me like a loaded claymore, wired tight, ready to blow. Then I remembered Marcus. We grew up together. He used to be the wiry kid who rode dirt bikes and broke both wrists the summer we were 12. Now he ran a heavy equipment rental yard and occasionally subcontracted for wildland fire crews. I shot him a text. Need a D6 dozer. Tomorrow. No questions. He replied. For you, $600 off the books and a handshake. Where? By midnight I had it all mapped out. The permit, the delivery, the exact angle I'd take to rip the porch clean off. I wasn't going to just reclaim my property. I was going to purify it. The next morning, I was back at the county clerk's office when they opened. The clerk was an older woman named June who remembered me from when I bought the land. What are you demolishing? She asked, typing into her computer. My cabin, I said. She paused. You just got home, didn't you? I nodded. She studied my face. That's a hell of a homecoming. Yeah, I said, handing over the $150 fee in cash. It is. I listed the reason for demolition as hazardous structural conditions and chemical contamination, which wasn't just true, it was bulletproof in court. I didn't sleep that night either. I parked my truck on the access road and sat there in the dark, engine off, watching my cabin through binoculars like I was back on Overwatch. Jesse's car was there. Lights on. Music playing. He was partying. The meth kind of party. At dawn, Marcus showed up in a lowboy trailer with the dozer. He hopped out, grinning. You sure about this, man? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I signed the receipt, climbed up into the cab, and turned the key. The diesel engine roared to life like a war cry. I didn't touch the house first. I laid on the horn. Jesse stumbled out, shirtless, one shoe on, holding a vape pen and what looked like a bowl of cereal. What the hell are you doing? You've got 5 minutes to grab your trash and vanish. You're crazy. I live here. Not for long. He ran inside, yelling. A girl came out barefoot, mascara smeared, carrying a backpack and a PlayStation under one arm. I watched the seconds tick down. 5 minutes on the dot, I dropped the blade. The dozer crunched forward. The porch shattered like dry crackers. The pit bull, God bless him, had already fled into the woods. The front wall crumpled, window glass popping like bubble wrap. I kept going. I raised the living room, shredded the roof, collapsed the walls in perfect, surgical lines. Jesse stood by his car, mouth open, screaming something I couldn't hear over the roar. By the time my parents showed up, tires skidding into the mud, it was too late. I had already crushed the bedroom, the kitchen, the dreams they'd gutted with their betrayal. My mom's scream was pure horror. Dad looked like someone had just shot his retirement plan in the kneecaps. But I wasn't done yet. Mom sprinted toward the dozer, arms flailing like she could flag down a 50,000-pound machine with pure guilt. I kept the cab locked, the AC blowing, and the classic rock station playing, Bad Company, at full blast. I wasn't a bad man. But I'd been pushed. She pounded on the steel side panel, sobbing. Arlo! Please! Your brother is fragile! I cut the engine. The silence fell like snow. I climbed down slowly, dust on my boots, adrenaline making my hands twitch. I walked past her without a word. Jesse was pacing near his car, screaming into his phone. She destroyed it! Mom shouted, pointing at the splintered remains like I was a tornado with a vendetta. She burned his safe space to the ground. I turned to face them all. I built this place, I said. With my hands. While Jesse was getting high in motel bathrooms, I was hauling logs. While you bailed him out of jail, I was dodging roadside bombs. Dad finally spoke, soft and stunned. You didn't have to do this. I absolutely did. You could have waited. Mom pleaded. We could have worked something out. No. I snapped. You worked something out already. You gave everything to him. My house. My money. My trust. And I got a parking lot welcome and a court date. Jesse stormed up, shoving his phone in my face. You're done, bro. I called the sheriff. That's illegal eviction. That's destruction of property. You're going to jail. I smiled, reached into my pocket, and handed Dad the signed demolition permit, stapled to a copy of the deed. Title's clean, I said. My name. No co-signers. And the county's about to test the rubble for meth contamination. If they find anything, they'll be charging you with manufacturing, Jesse. He froze. The color drained from his face. You wouldn't, he whispered. I already did. I hadn't. Yet. But they didn't know that. You've got 10 minutes to get your crap off my land before the state shows up with dogs and a forensic team. And you. I turned to Mom. If you even think of coming back here with a sob story and a casserole, I will file a restraining order so fast your teeth will rattle. She slapped me. Right across the face. I didn't even blink. Save it, I said. You lost the right to hit me when you gave away my life. They stood there as I climbed back into the cab and shoved the last wall down with the dozer blade. Not out of anger. Out of mercy. I wasn't salvaging this mess. I was erasing it. They were gone by noon. Tyler, sorry, Jesse, peeled out of the driveway so fast he fishtailed into a ditch and scraped half his bumper off getting free. Mom cried the whole way to the car. Dad didn't say a word. He just looked at the pile of splintered cedar and bent rebar like he'd buried a time capsule and someone dug it up and pissed on the contents. I stood at the edge of the wreckage with Marcus, sipping lukewarm coffee from a thermos. Damn, he muttered. You weren't bluffing. Nope. He kicked a piece of charred lumber. This was a nice place. It was, I said. Now it's a crime scene. He nodded slowly. You gonna report it for real? I'm deciding. Because part of me wanted to burn it all down legally, press charges, get Jesse on a manufacturing rap, drag my parents into court for fraud or misappropriation of funds. But another part of me just wanted out. The land was poisoned. Not just chemically. Spiritually. Emotionally. I couldn't walk 5 feet without seeing the ghost of what I built. What they'd ruined. That night I slept in a tent. Not some RI pop-up thing. A real tent. Canvas walls. Wood stove. I'd used it on training exercises outside Fort Irwin. Set it up in the one clear patch near the creek where the fire hadn't reached. It was freezing. Quiet. Clean. The next day, I started hauling the debris into roll-off dumpsters. 10-hour days, all muscle. No help. Just me, a pair of gloves, and a hatred so thick I could shovel it. The worst was the floorboards. Seeing those burn marks, knowing what happened there. What they let happen. By day 4, my back was shot and my hands were blistered. But the site was clean. Dirt scraped, topsoil turned. I paid a hazmat crew to run a soil test. Meth residue was everywhere. So I had the top 3 inches of earth stripped and replaced. $15,000. Gone. But now it was just earth again. Empty. And weirdly, that felt good. I sat by the creek that night, boots off, feet in the freezing water. The moon was high, the coyotes were howling like old friends. I'd planned to rebuild. Same cabin, same footprint, same view. But I couldn't. Not anymore. The place I'd built for peace had become a battlefield. And I was tired of fighting. 3 weeks later, I sold the land. Got a fair price, too, some retired couple from Oregon with solar panels and big dreams about off-grid gardening. I didn't mention the meth. They'd run their own soil test. It came back clean enough. I walked the boundary line one last time before I signed the papers. Touched the cedar stump where I carved my initials with a hatchet. Tossed a river rock into the creek like it meant something. Then I left. Not out of bitterness, at least, not anymore. I left because sometimes you can't keep growing in soil that's been poisoned, no matter how hard you try to till it. Sometimes, walking away isn't quitting. It's choosing peace over pride. I took the check, bought a smaller plot 3 counties over. 5 acres along the Clearwater River. No driveway yet. No neighbors. No cell reception. Just wild grass and birdsong and a wide open sky. And this time? I didn't build a cabin. I built a shop. A 40 by 60 metal building, slab foundation, steel frame. Fireproof. Bulletproof. Family-proof. Insulated it myself, wired it for 220, installed roll-up doors and a loft that serves as a sleeping space. I don't need a cedar porch or reclaimed wood cabinets anymore. I need things that last. That can't be burned down or pawned. I live simply. Solar power, rain catchment, a wood stove. No TV. No drama. Sometimes I think about Jesse. He got arrested 2 months after the dozer incident, tried to steal copper wire from a construction site, got caught red-handed with a trunk full of tools that weren't his. He's doing time now. First offense they could actually stick. Mom's telling people I had a psychotic break from the army. Claims I bulldozed our family retreat because I missed war too much. I heard she's calling it PTSD. It's not PTSD. It's clarity. And clarity comes with its own kind of peace. Sometimes I sit on the metal steps outside my shop with a cup of black coffee, staring at the sunrise over the ridge. There's no cedar scent. No fancy porch. No ghosts. Just me. Finally. One morning, about 6 months after the rebuild, I got mail. Actual mail. Which was weird because I hadn't given out my address to anyone but the county utilities and the hardware store in town. The envelope was thick. Legal paper. No return address. I opened it on the tailgate of my truck with a pocket knife. Inside was a letter of intent to sue, from a lawyer representing my parents. They were alleging intentional infliction of emotional distress and destruction of personal property. The property in question? The stuff Jesse left behind when I flattened the cabin. A mattress. Some clothes. A box of tools he probably stole from me in the first place. At first I laughed. Actually laughed, out loud, in the middle of my gravel driveway. Then I got to work. My lawyer, Rob, a friend of Marcus, was ex-Marine, now deep into mountain law and chain-smoking Marlboro Reds between calls. I sent him everything, the deed, the permits, photos of the contamination, receipts from the hazmat crew. He asked me one question. You want to go scorched earth, or just make them go away? I said, let's make them wish they'd never picked up a pen. He drafted a single-page response. It included an invoice for $35,000, covering hazmat remediation, structural loss, stolen property, and cleanup labor. Attached to it? A draft police report I was prepared to file that detailed Jesse's suspected meth manufacturing activities, plus a witness statement from Marcus. The footnote on the last page was brutal. Should your clients wish to proceed to court, we'll be happy to open discovery on how they spent the financial support intended for Mr. Arlo's property maintenance during his active duty deployment. Translation: I was ready to drag them through hell if they wanted to play games. They didn't respond. 3 weeks later, Rob got a letter saying they were dropping everything and regretted any confusion. Classic boomer backpedal. I framed that letter and hung it inside the shop. Not because I'm proud of what happened, but because it's the moment I knew I was free. No more guilt. No more questions. No more begging for respect from people who'd sell my future for a gas station burrito and a sad story about their golden child. I started over. Not to prove anything, but to never need them again. The last time I saw Jesse was through a chain-link fence at the county jail. I wasn't there to visit him. I was there doing a consult on a welding job for the sheriff's new equipment shed. The foreman pointed him out through the yard, orange jumpsuit, shuffling in a line, looking thin and twitchy and small. He didn't see me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel anything. No rage. No sadness. No temptation to climb that fence and scream what he took from me. Just nothing. Later that week, I ran into my cousin Abby at the feed store. She gave me a long look, the kind that says she'd heard every version of the story, mine, theirs, the family gossip, but she didn't know which one to believe. You really bulldozed the whole thing? She asked, half smirking. I nodded. Every last board. Damn, she whispered. That's cold. No, I said, grabbing a bag of pellets. That's healing. She didn't press it. Because the people who get it, they don't need the whole story. And the people who don't? You could tattoo it on your face and they'd still call you crazy. I didn't go to Thanksgiving. Or Christmas. Or anything with family in the name. I sent a check to my niece for her graduation and called it good. Boundaries don't always look like fences. Sometimes they look like silence. Out here, I got new friends. Guys who've seen the inside of war and the inside of courtrooms and know the quiet relief of a weekend with no drama. We do barbecues sometimes. Fishing. A few of us are building a communal smokehouse near the river. The shop's coming along. I've got a little forge set up, started tinkering with knife making. Not for sale, just for me. The act of shaping something from ruin. Turning scrap steel into something useful. Something that lasts. I sleep better now. The stars are brighter out here, and I finally have enough peace to stare at them without feeling like I'm wasting time. I haven't built another house yet. Maybe I will someday. Maybe I won't. Right now, I've got everything I need. Steel walls. A locked gate. And a future that's finally mine again. Last week, I got an email. Just one line, no punctuation. Can we talk, Mom? It sat in my inbox for 3 days before I opened it again. She wasn't asking out of love. She was testing the water. Seeing if the door was still cracked. Seeing if I'd softened. I hadn't. I didn't reply. A few hours later, I got another one from a new address, clearly Jesse's. It said, I'm sober now. Trying to make things right. Thought you should know. There was a photo attached. Him in a folding chair, holding a coin. 30 days clean. Pale, thin eyes hollow, but upright. And for a split second, I felt something. Not forgiveness. Not closure. Just recognition. He looked like a guy standing on the edge of a cliff, hoping nobody noticed he didn't know how to climb down. And maybe I should have written back. Maybe I should have told him about the time I almost drove my Humvee off a bridge in Kandahar just to end the noise in my head. Maybe I should have told him he wasn't special. That rock bottom has a basement. But I didn't. Because part of recovery, whether from addiction or war or betrayal, is knowing when to stop picking up other people's mess. My shop is clean. My life is quiet. That's not something I'll risk again just to play the older brother role they never respected in the first place. If he's really rebuilding, he'll understand. You can't patch something until it's been completely leveled. Until the rot is scraped away, and the ground is firm again. That's the one thing Jesse and I finally have in common. We both had to burn it all down to start over. The difference is, I actually did. 6 months ago, I started welding a sign to mount on the shop wall above my tool rack. Just a piece of plate steel, plasma cut lettering, rough edges on purpose. It reads, "No one is coming to save you. Build anyway." I look at it every morning when I open the bay doors and step out into the cold, letting the wood stove heat breathe behind me. The river's always moving. The sky is never the same shade twice. And every day, something small gets better. I put up a motion sensor fence last month. Not because I'm scared of anyone showing up, because I won't give them the chance. I've learned that the best form of therapy is preparation. My property line is mapped, my gear is insured, and my gates lock in 4 directions. I've had offers to do custom metalwork, ranchers, hobbyists, some weekend warriors with cash to blow, but I take the jobs I want, not the ones I need. That's the luxury of living on your own terms. I don't answer to anyone anymore. Especially not ghosts. And there are days, sure, when the silence gets loud. When I remember what I built. What they destroyed. What I lost. But then I take a breath, light the forge, and make something with my hands. Not because I'm trying to replace what was taken, but because I'm proving I don't need anyone's permission to create again. You don't get to choose what burns down. Only what you build next. And out here, where the stars are bright and the mornings bite hard and the world leaves me the hell alone, I'm building something that no one can ever take. Not again. Not ever.